There are stories that don't live in books. They live in smoke, in the steam of a clay pot, in the hands of an old woman who knew the name of every leaf in the forest. This is one of those stories. The village had no name on any map. It sat 11 kilometers off a dirt road, which itself sat 40 kilometers from the nearest town. When the rains came, the road became a river. When the dry season arrived, the dust entered everything. Your food, your eyes, your lungs, your dreams. This was not poverty the way city people imagine it. This was poverty that woke me up at 4 in the morning and never complained out loud. The family had nothing by city standards. No hospital nearby.
No running water. No connections to the kind of people who open doors. But they had a father who prayed before the sun rose, a mother whose hands never knew stillness, and a grandmother who walked through the forest like the trees already knew her name. The hospital was far, not just in kilometers, but in cost, in time, in what it meant to leave. There was no jumping in a car and swiping a card. To go to the hospital meant, who watches the farm? How do we find transport? Do we have enough for the consultation and the medicine? And if we spend that money, what do we eat next week? So they did not go. Not for everything. Not for the things the grandmother said she could handle. She walked into the bush like the forest had been waiting for her. She would stop at a plant that looked like every other plant and say its name. Not just its common name, but something older. The name her own grandmother gave it. This one for stomach pain. This one for fever. This one you only touch with your right hand and only after sunset. I never understood the rules, but I never questioned them either, because the results were never wrong. I remember the first time she treated my malaria. I was 6 years old and burning from the inside. She moved with no panic. She boiled the leaves in a clay pot until the whole room filled with a smell that was bitter and green and almost alive. She made me sit over the steam first, face down, cloth over my head. Then she let it cool and made me drink. And before I drank, she prayed. Not a short prayer, a real one. The kind that felt like a conversation between her and something far older than both of us. 3 days later, I was running outside in the dirt again. When someone fell sick in that village, the community did not send a message. They arrived at the door with food and firewood and their own knowledge. Someone's aunt knew a different herb. Someone's grandfather had seen this sickness before. The whole village was a kind of distributed hospital, built on faith and memory, instead of equipment and degrees. Imperfect, slow, but deeply, deeply human. When I left for the city on a scholarship, I learned quickly. The way I grew up, the herbs, the prayers, the rituals, these were things to be quiet about. Nobody said it directly. It was in the way faces moved when you mentioned them. The city didn't come to offer us better options. The city just taught us to be ashamed of the options we already had. She died at 94. In her own bed, in her own compound, surrounded by every person who loved her. A clay cup of her own herbal tea is still warm on the floor beside her. She chose her exit. She never owned a car, never had a bank account, never saw the inside of a pharmacy. She outlived 3 doctors in our district. I'm still thinking about that. I'm sitting in my apartment now, health insurance card in my wallet, Google Calendar full. My children are in a school that does not know their great-grandmother's name. And I feel something I cannot fully name. Not regret, exactly, but something that lives right next to it. Like I crossed a bridge and forgot to look back at what the bridge was built on. She is on the ground now, back on the earth she spent 94 years learning. I hope the land recognizes her when she returns to it. I think it does. For every grandmother whose knowledge was never written down, it did not disappear. It went back to the earth. And the earth remembers everything.